Good afternoon and welcome to the Weekend Wellness Hour show. Today we have a returning guest, Sarah Bingham, who is a certified nutrition consultant in Florida. And before we had her on talking about the GAPS diet and how that can help people get out of a whole range of healthcare issues, diseases, conditions, disease, all those types of things. But today we're going to go in a little bit deeper and look at our food, specifically our amino acids and how the amino acids in our food affect cravings, anxiety, depression, and just our general health and how we behave, perform, and act. So I want to welcome back Sarah. Thank you so much for joining us again.
It is so good to see you, Amy. Happy day.
Yes, happy December day,
Amen.
almost winter. Yes.
Exactly.
So we kind of went over your background a little bit before. I know you've had so much experience in looking at nutrition and psychology and combining the two together. And so I just want to kind of touch on why there's so much anxiety, depressions, and cravings going on in our society nowadays.
Yeah, I deal a lot with families, and the pediatric population is what just scares me to death, frankly, because our children are, we have really begun to be numb and assume that most children are hyper, can't focus, can't sleep, irritable, all kinds of stuff like that. And that is not normal. So,
Yeah.
what has gone on? Here it is in a nutshell, Amy. We just started allowing food manufacturers to focus on making a ton of money by creating scientific experiments that they call food, which really are no longer food. And I can tell you that if we could just go back more and more to ancestral ways, we will do much better. So here's here's what happened. Things changed. Things were changing already in the 50s and the 1950s with the sugar coming on, white flour, more sugar, more white flour. Again, that creates nutritional deficiencies. Period. So you've got, if you look at white flour, they have, it says enriched with 3B vitamins. Do you know why that happened?
No, probably because they took some of it out.
Well, because when you take the outer coating, the bran, off of wheat, which is what they do to get white flour, all right, the bran and the wheat germ, those are the two things that they take away from the whole kernel of wheat. That the wheat germ is loaded with B vitamins. The outer coating has lots of fiber, which keeps your bowels moving in all kinds of good directions. And and the B vitamins, they were noticing that people were literally dying of B vitamin deficiency. Okay, literally. And this was the hilarious part is it's the wealthy that get the sickest. It was the king that had the white flour because the poor couldn't afford to grind their flour. They didn't have mills. Uh-huh. So at any rate, nutritionists started seeing this and said, yo, we gotta at least, these people, they're dumb. They will not stop eating white flour because that's what the royal people do. And this is the human nature deal. So they said, God, we gotta add B vitamins. Well, at
Mhm.
that point, we only knew about three B vitamins. So you'll see it's B1, B2, and B3. Those are the only three vitamins that are in there.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
now there's a ton of other B vitamins and other substances that we don't even know about that we've taken out of a natural substance, right? So that is the beginning of the end of us thinking that we know more than Mother Nature. And that is just the kiss of death. So the 1970s come around and heart attacks, and people want to know, what's the deal? And fat became the villain.
Yep.
Now, like 50 years later, the truth came out that actually the sugar lobbies paid off the Harvard researchers to say that it was fat, not sugar. They knew it was sugar.
Yeah.
They knew that sugar was
Wow.
the main culprit of heart disease and the main culprit of most of the disease that we're seeing. But we went the route of fat, and then in comes low fat foods. Now, what happens there is the fat is replaced with sugar. So,
Yep.
yep. So away we go. And we then also got the equipment to create oils that are highly toxic. And these are your vegetable oils. Again, ancestrally, in the old villages in Europe, the little guy would be pedaling down the street with flax oil, and he would take these natural flax seeds and grind them right there. but everyone knew it would only last for about a day before it goes rancid. So the guy had to pedal every day, to give you your hit of oil, which is a highly, it's a wonderful oil, but pressed ahead of time, any vegetable oil like sunflower, safflower, cottonseed, all these oils, the minute they hit air, light, and heat, they go rancid.
Wow.
Uh-huh. And what happens when you eat a rancid fat, which is in all your processed food, you can't find anything on the shelf that doesn't have rancid oil in it. And so what happens is that creates a huge inflammatory situation in your body. And we know that inflammation is the beginning of disease.
Yeah. So what do you suggest that people use instead if all those oils are out there
So if
rancid?
Thank you very much. If you look at our ancestors, they did one of two
Mhm.
things. They rendered fat from animals. So that
Mhm.
again, back in the 1900s, they were rendering fat from cows and pigs and, lard and, all that good stuff. And the other is, if you again look at ancestral villages, they would pull fat from fruits. That would be olive, coconut, and avocado. So those are oils that you can extract, with relative ease, and they don't go rancid. They're much more stable at room temperature.
Okay. Okay.
So, so those are the only three oils that I recommend a person use, aside from animal fat, which would be butter and ghee. All right, and
Mhm.
if you get it from a
Yeah.
healthy animal, those oils. If you think about our brain, let's think about your brain. Your brain is a big fat lump of fat.
Yep.
So your brain needs to be fed fat. And if you look at our ancestors, they're doing like a 1 to 3 rate, three times. Um, uh, it's a 1 to 3 ratio of omega 6 to omega 3. All right.
Oh yeah.
So
Mhm.
omega 6 is what you find in most, most foods other than cold water fish, flax oil, um, and cod liver oil sort of thing. But if an animal is grazing out on grass, if you have a grass fed animal, the ratio of omega 3 oils, which are the anti inflammatory oils, are much higher. We are now at a 1 to 20 with the vegetable oils that people are eating. And I promise you, that ratio makes you crazy.
Yikes. That's
Um,
awful.
the omega 3 oils have been shown to affect all kinds of behavior in a positive way. So
Mhm.
all my clients get cod liver oil for sure. Um, but again, it has to be extracted in a good way, in the ancestral way, where they fermented the cod liver oil. And oils really need to be honored. And our ancestors would travel miles and miles and miles to get good substances that had the right oils. They knew, and they would make sure their women, before they got pregnant, had lots of good fats. They knew.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah, no, this
Yeah.
is huge. So our oils are a huge thing. So
Okay.
between the minute we started eating white flour and white sugar, pretty much everything started going downhill. So
Yeah.
that's the biggest baddest. And then our food manufacturers, where again, money is more important than health in this country. Period.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So you obviously see these changes in our diet, then there's a lot of correlations between anxiety, depression, and cravings. So is that kind of what, do you see that correlation? And is there any studies out there that show, okay, this is really a major cause?
There are a billion studies. If you just get, I studied with Julia Ross, and you want to read her books. She has the
Mhm.
craving cure. This is one. She's got mood cure. She's got the diet cure. She's done a ton of research, and her books are absolutely loaded with studies and scientific research. Let's take a look at what our food corporations are doing, and without hesitation, without any ethical. I don't know what
Yeah.
I don't know where these people get their, but here you go.
Yeah.
They will say that it only takes 30 brain scans. And what that means is they sit people down, and in their cookies, they have put different kinds of chemicals in their cookies. And as people are eating their cookies, they're watching the brain scans. And when the addictive part of the brain lights up, they're like, good, we got it. And doing 30 brain scans, they can then apply that to the entire population. That's all they need. And so that consciously, they're trying to addict you to
Yeah.
their processed cookies, bread, whatever the heck it is. And so, why are so many children only eating white flour, white sugar, and dairy? Because our food corporations are encouraging this. And because we have a lot of working mothers who are stressed and don't understand really what's going on. But the
Yeah.
craving piece is huge and it's very real. So,
One thing I have to say, I know several people in my life who have toddlers, 2, 3-year-olds who can't sleep. And so one of my first go-tos is, have you cut out the sugar? Have you cut out the processed foods? And without fail, every response I get, and I'm not, disparaging them at any means, is they have to give them sugar because they don't have time, or every food has sugar in there. They don't have time to prepare stuff. And no, nothing bad against them. I try educating them and say, the sugar is very related to behavior. It's very related to sleep, which impacts behavior again. And there's that cycle. I mean, I just read the book Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker.
yeah.
There is a section in there that talks about nutrition and sugar and how it impacts your behavior through sleep and all that. So I completely get what you're saying.
Oh, it's no, it's horrific. And mothers are addicted. That's the other
Yeah.
problem. They're
Yeah.
like, how can I not bring this into my home? If it's not in your home, it's really hard to eat. But sugar is three
Yeah.
times more addictive than cocaine. So they're not kidding, when they say this is hard. However, what they don't understand is this is definitely the hard road to continue to feed them sugar. It is much easier to go through the tunnel and get to the other side. And the tunnel is a bit ugly. You've just got to do it and get the sugar out of your house and go through the withdrawal, and all of you will. Um, but on the other side is a normal child who's happy, content, eats a full meal, no problem, goes to sleep, wakes up, happy mood. Hello, that's called normal. That's what a normal
Yeah.
child is. But that's
Yeah.
what I mean. Most parents are like, oh yeah, kids do this now. I was like,
Yeah.
no, they don't.
Yeah. I totally agree.
Sleep is huge.
Yeah.
Bring that later
Absolutely.
with an autistic child that I dealt with, and yeah. But the beginning of the end is our diet and what we've done to our gut. Now, the last time we talked a lot about gut, and by the way, as far as
Yeah.
cooking fast and whatnot, if you go onto my website, I just put up my course called Kitchen Hacks.
Ooh, nice.
And I am not Susie in the kitchen all day long. I promise you, I've like, okay, how do we get in and out, get this done? So I'm all about cooking about 2 hours a week and being done with it.
Oh, that's amazing. Wow.
Yeah, and you can do that for a family. Okay. Aside from
That's
breakfast, you got to put breakfast
that's
in.
incredible.
Lunch and dinner are
Okay.
done. Okay. So,
Okay.
so there. So no, it's not about time. It's about priority.
Yes, I totally agree.
And if your priority is to have sanity in your house, then you are absolutely pointing the gun at your head when you bring sugar in. Period.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
Totally agree. So let's dive into a little bit about amino acid therapy. Can you first go into what amino acids are and what this therapy is?
So amino acids, if you get that our letters that we use in our alphabet make up words, amino acids are sort of the letters in proteins. So you have different proteins made up of different kinds of amino acids. But what they've discovered is that when you pull these amino acids apart, and typically I will tell you, I don't believe in doing this. This is exactly what I said we do, that we pull things out and think that we've got the answer. Well, sometimes, the reason I got into amino acid therapy was the GAPS diet, and getting people onto good whole foods solves a ton of problems. And the addiction piece is a significant one. So what I found was there's two kinds of people in the world. People like me, where I was a complete sugarholic, but I had to, once I was sick and I was like, I don't like this and I don't want to be sick anymore, I could use my willpower to say, yeah, I don't want to do this. But I do not come biochemically from a family that is of addictive nature. And if you
Oh,
have a biochemistry that is more addictive, the willpower doesn't work. I'm sorry, it just does not. It is
Yeah.
biochemistry, and if you can
Yeah.
change the biochemistry, you change the craving for the sugar. And they've
Yeah.
proven that with certain chemicals and whatnot that they can give addicts that make them don't want to do that. Well, these are benign, which is wonderful. And so that was, one of the reasons I got into it. So, and the anxiety and the depression. If you are just anxious up the yazoo and you just you cannot come down from the anxiety, or you're so depressed you can't get yourself organized, or you're ADD and you can't. How can you change the diet of your family if you can't stay focused on a project and get it done? So these are all the reasons. And I had listened to Julia Ross and her. There was another woman. There's two great women that sort of brought this to light, and they're both about the same age. They've been at this for 40 years. So I've read about it for decades. And
Yeah.
Julia first got into it. She was a psychotherapist in San Francisco into addiction. So when she was young, she was like, "Oh, great! I'm going to help all these people get unaddicted." And then she got into the field and realized that, yeah, no, actually, the success rate, which still is around 10 to 15% success in the field of addiction. Now, is that ridiculous? Yeah,
So
exactly.
low.
Well, yeah. And she said, that's ridiculous. And then she
Yeah.
started looking at what people were doing. And she said, oh, well, they give up one addiction, but they still hold on to sugar, um, caffeine, and nicotine. They hold on to those three drugs. And
Yeah.
so she began to work the diet and she learned about the amino acids. When she combined eat whole foods and get off the other drugs, the sugar, the caffeine, and the nicotine,
Hmm.
when you combine diet with amino acids, the success rate uh, with um, with addiction goes from
Hmm.
10 to 15% to 83%.
Ooh.
Now
Now,
we
those are numbers that we like.
exactly, Julia kept numbers, and we've known this for
Yeah.
decades.
Wow. That's incredible. So is this how you got into looking at amino acid therapy by studying Julia's stuff?
Exactly.
Okay.
I've been reading her stuff for decades. And then Julia said, I'm giving a course. At which point I said, okay, that's it. I got to learn this. So I
Yeah.
did learn it. And it's been transformational for my clients and for me, to really see it.
Yeah.
It is just so exciting to watch this go down.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's what I did. And I learned that if I give my client a questionnaire that talks about their symptoms, that enables me to focus in on the particular amino acids that they're probably low in. And the amino
Okay.
acids are the precursors. They are what make the neurotransmitters in your brain. Now, let me also be very clear that
Yeah.
if you get your gut right, then your brain is right. So you can bypass doing all this stuff, if we can get your gut right. But sometimes I can't
Okay.
get a person there until I can get them unanxious and unhooked on sugar. So it is one of these chicken and egg things.
Yeah.
Um, at any rate, yes. So the aminos are what are the building blocks of your neurotransmitters.
Okay. So then what process do you go through to figure out which one a person needs, how much, kind of that whole process?
Okay, so if I see that what you do with these symptoms is you mark them from 1 to 10, as far as 10 being, yeah, that's with me all the time. That's yes, I'm always that way. And
Yeah.
so if I see a whole lot of symptoms, um, then I send them an amino acid kit. And
Okay.
all my whole business is virtual. So we sit on Zoom just like this. And if you're my client, I say, okay,
Hmm.
Amy, I want you to take the tryptophan. I want you to open the capsule and put the powder under your tongue. And then
Hmm.
and then I time it for 1 minute. Okay.
Okay.
And then I let you have a sip of water because it does not taste very good. These I can't taste it tasty, but this is how we learn how your brain reacts to tryptophan. Okay.
Okay.
And so now, so let's talk about tryptophan for a minute. Tryptophan
Yeah.
is one of the biggest, baddest uh, amino acids that we are lacking in this country. All right. Because
Hmm.
tryptophan makes serotonin and serotonin makes melatonin. So
Ah,
melatonin is what helps you sleep. And
yes.
serotonin is your happy. It's the don't worry, be happy. Someone with plenty of
Uh-huh.
serotonin has no problem going there. All right. So
Yeah.
adequate serotonin gives you a positive outlook on life. It gives you emotional flexibility, self-confidence, a sense of humor. All right. If you are real low in tryptophan, you've got negativity and depression, winter blues, worry, anxiety, low self esteem, hyperactivity, obsessive thoughts and behaviors, perfectionism, controlling, irritability, rage, PMS, even, panic attacks and phobias. A person that's got
Wow.
phobias, this is low serotonin. Fibromyalgia, which is chronic pain all through the body, TMJ,
Hmm.
migraines, cravings for substances, especially afternoon or evening, insomnia, disturbed sleep. Again, low tryptophan, you're not making enough melatonin. So often these people are night owls, hard to get to sleep, or they have disturbed sleep. They just can't be, seem to sleep well. So if I see a whole bunch of that going on, I say, okay, Amy, so put this under your tongue and give it a minute. All right. And at the
Yeah.
end of the minute, once you've swallowed some water, I say, all right, how are you feeling? And it's typically one of three things. It's like, I don't feel any different, or wow, that feels really nice. It's like, wow, I feel like,
Wow.
I just kind of downshifted a little bit.
It's incredible.
Yeah, my anxiety isn't as high. Wow, I feel pretty good. Or, and the third option is, yeah, I feel a change, but I don't like it.
Hmm.
I don't like the way that makes me feel at all. At
That's
which point,
interesting.
powdered vitamin C, which in 20 minutes will erase that.
So what does that signal if they don't like the feeling? Is it they're too
It just
much
means,
tryptophan or
you know what? We have no idea. We've just
okay.
experimented this far to know that everyone's
Okay.
individual, and that's why we do the trialing. I
Got it.
don't give people the stuff and say, go home and take this. You need to
Yeah.
trial it. Um,
Yeah.
that gives me information, and sometimes it's like, yeah, I don't feel
Mhm.
anything, but that's a neutral. All right, so I say, okay, try another one, and so we do two, and sometimes after two, they,
Okay.
oh, now I'm feeling it. Ah, that feels really good. So you hear that
Mhm.
feedback of it's like,
Yeah.
wow, I can relax. And often these people
That's
have never, ever, ever experienced that. They've lived their
wow.
whole
So
life.
that's interesting. And then how many amino acids are you testing when you send them this kit?
In general, I test about 5, but I send them
Okay.
probably twice as many because there are some
Okay.
alternatives. Again, like if someone says, "Yeah, I don't like the way that tryptophan feels," I will erase it and then I'll try 5-HTP. Now, 5-HTP is another form of tryptophan, and
Okay.
sometimes people prefer that. They like the way that makes them feel better than tryptophan. Why?
Yeah.
Haven't a clue. None of us do. But we know the body will tell you loud and
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah. That's fascinating. So can you test one right after another? Or let's say they have a good response with tryptophan. Do you wait until another day for them to try one of the other amino acids? Or
Oh, the
is
most
there
amazing thing is all of these amino acids hit a different area of the brain.
okay.
So I can test them literally one right after the other, right after the other.
Oh, neat.
Is that amazing?
Very neat.
So like if the
Yeah.
next thing I see is oh, I am just loaded with cravings for sugar. I cannot not, do the sugar, the starch, the alcohol, the crackers, the whatever. And if I get irritable and shaky and stressed, especially if I go too long between meals, all right, these are all signs of low blood sugar and sugar addiction. Basically, it's a very addictive deal. I've dealt with alcoholics. A woman came to me who she beat the alcohol, but she couldn't beat the sugar. She had moved
Oh,
from alcohol addiction to sugar
yeah.
addiction. So I had her put the glutamine under her tongue and I said, okay, now think about, and sometimes it takes 2 capsules, sometimes more. But I said, now think about, your favorite chocolate cake or whatever. How bad do you want it right now? And it's fascinating. The glutamine literally goes right to the brain. It's somewhat grounding, but it goes right to the brain. And glutamine is part of what the brain perceives as food. And
Wow.
it just makes your brain feel like you just ate. So typically the feedback is, yeah, I could actually take it or leave it.
Dang, that's impressive. I'm sure a lot of people would love that one.
No, it's a miracle. It's just phenomenal. So, and yes, and so glutamine helps with blood sugar balance and all that good stuff. So that's the glutamine. Or if they've been high in levels that affect your DL phenylalanine, these are endorphins.
Mhm.
Okay, so endorphins
Yeah.
are happen when you've been running, when you hit the wall and then move through the wall. Endorphins are the real feel good. I call them the warm blanket. Endorphins just feel like somebody just wrapped you up in a warm blanket. It's a really nice feeling, right? How would you
Yep.
explain it? You're an athlete.
Yes, and I know exactly what you're talking about. When you hit that wall, you just feel elated to be alive, that you've gone through this, hard event and you've come out the other side and you just want to hug anything around you. So I definitely know what that feels like.
Exactly.
Trust.
Okay, the hug factor. That's a good one too. Yeah, I like that. So
Yeah.
it has to do with psychological and physical pain relief, pleasure,
Mhm.
loving feelings, and numbness when needed. So some people can't numb an emotional, a big emotional deal, when they need to, and that's actually a healthy ability, to numb your feelings. So
Yeah.
if they're very high in these symptoms, they're very sensitive to emotional and physical pain. They cry or tear up easily. They have a history of chronic pain. They love or crave comfort, reward, pleasure, numbing from foods, alcohol, drugs, behaviors like, and that can even include porn, exercise, self harm. These are things that people that are low in the endorphins do, and often that's in addiction as well. People cutting
Yeah.
themselves, etc. So what they're
Yep.
trying to do, what addiction is, as far as I'm concerned, people are trying to self heal. They really are trying
Yeah.
to self medicate and feel
Yeah.
better because they know they'll
Yeah.
feel. So the
Yeah.
DFDA, DL phenylalanine is what I use,
Okay.
and that stuff is great. It just feels
It
like a
sounds like it. You mean I don't have to run 100 miles to get that?
Nowadays. It's like, yeah, no, it's really good. Um,
Okay.
so, and then GABA, which is a big one. Anyone who's dealt with
Mhm.
depression and whatnot, GABA often comes up. Um, but it's more actually, GABA comes up more with anxiety. GABA is your
Yeah.
chill pill. GABA is the key word around GABA is overwhelm. When you are just feeling beyond overwhelmed, stiff, tense, painful muscles, stressed, burned out, unable to relax, loosen up, get to sleep, often feel overwhelmed, crave substances for stress relief. It's like, I'm just stressed up the yazoo. If you have plenty of GABA, you have no problem finding calmness, relaxation, and stress tolerance. All right, you can handle all that. So, so again, put it under your tongue. How do you feel? And so often I get comments like, "Wow, that's just like that's like weed," or "That's like I just had a drink of alcohol." Tryptophan and GABA
Wow.
will both do similar things like that, where
Yeah.
they're a downer, they're a chill pill, they're like a,
Okay.
but it's not. The cool thing is, and this is again what people comment on, is like, well, I don't feel tired and I don't feel like, like I can't think. It's like, again, so often I'm with clients who have never ever experienced this feeling unless
Yeah.
they've done alcohol or weed.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's a really lovely feeling.
And it's great because these aren't illegal. They don't have the side effects like alcohol does. And it's a natural source that we would typically get to make our feel better. So,
Exactly. Your body will make these when it's healthy. The
mhm.
biggest challenge is we're now generations into very unhealthy guts. So they're not
Yeah.
producing them. And we're putting, fuel to the fire by eating the food that we're eating. So our guts are out of balance and then we're eating just caustic food. So the very
Yeah.
last one that I look at has to do with catecholamines. And the catecholamines,
Mhm.
cats, are your uppers. Um, so tyrosine is what I trial with people. And when people go to get checked for their thyroid, they're being checked for T3 and T4. These are the things that's on the lab sheet, that the doctor is testing for. That T stands for tyrosine. So we know
Okay.
that tyrosine has to do with alertness, energy, mental focus, drive, and enthusiasm. And how many 30-year-olds do I know that need a nap in the afternoon? It's like, oh dear goodness.
A
Um,
lot.
yeah, exactly. Now, most of the time, that just goes away once they get the processed foods out of their lives, but sometimes not so much. So, if they're high in these symptoms, apathetic depression, lack of energy, lack of drive, lack of focus and concentration, ADD, big for ADD, crave substances for energy and focus, we'll trial the tyrosine. And so often they're like, wow, I'll get feedback once they start up on it. It's like, God, these are often people that cannot finish a project. They've got
Yeah.
five things up in the air and they just cannot, they can't land the plane. The
Yeah.
tyrosine is the best buddy. And so they get through the week and they go, my God, I've gotten so much done. And it feels so good.
This is
So,
great.
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so you once you find out all these different, amino acids, some may be deficient in one, or I assume people can have multiple ones they're deficient in. What's the next step? Is this you look at their diet and adjust the diet, or do they get in a supplement of amino acids? Like, how does that go after that?
I'm doing both. I am for
Okay.
sure telling them to get the heck off anything processed because it's killing them.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
Now the beauty is, often I will have all five aminos going. Some people come in. I had one woman with tens all the way down the sheet. Okay,
Ooh.
and she had lived this way her entire life. Okay, with maximum all these symptoms that I just laid out. Okay,
Yeah.
the coping ability of humans blows me away. What humans cope with within 6 weeks. Now Julia says within 4 you should get there, but within 6 weeks she was down to all zeros,
Wow, that's incredible. She
and
must have been flying high.
she just there's hardly words for the change.
Yeah.
And meanwhile she was addicted to food, so she's lost already 25 pounds. And
Oh,
the weight just, yeah, so it's
that's so
like
cool.
how to give someone their life back. And the aminos are not lifelong. You don't have to take them forever. They have a way
Okay.
of somehow resetting the brain. It's just wild. So
Interesting.
what Julia taught me was, um, for some people it's 3 months, some some a full year if they've been addicted and all that stuff. But at some point you go on a vacation, you forget the aminos and you realize, well, dang, I'm okay without them.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I'm
That's
okay.
really neat.
And they also help many people get off the antidepressant drugs. So I
Yeah.
have a client right now, of several clients who've been able to get off their antidepressant meds. This one woman was labeled bipolar. I'm not sure she was. This is part of the issue with antidepressant. They often bring on a
Yeah.
bipolar type condition. At any rate, she's been able to get off her meds. So,
That's
but
amazing.
that's only with the help of the aminos. They're just phenomenal.
That's incredible. Are there any dangers of them, contraindications?
Yes, absolutely. I'll pull my
Yeah.
list out here because this is why it's important, I think, to see a practitioner, not just sort of jump.
Yeah.
Again, if you've been diagnosed with bipolar, um, mania has been, see, tyrosine's an upper. So for some people who are bipolar, if they take tyrosine, it'll bring on a course of mania. And DLPA has some tyrosine in it. So you want to watch the DLPA. Um,
Okay.
and for some people with severe and suicidal depression, 5-HTP sometimes can bring that on. So you've got to really know, glutamine can actually do that, and so can melatonin. So migraines are contraindicated, high blood pressure for tyrosine. Again, both, those are all anti, yeah,
Got
not
it.
a good idea. So there, I can go through all of them, but there are conditions that you want to know about before you go jumping
Yeah.
into the aminos, because last thing you want to do is make things worse.
Yeah. And does it matter your body size? Like,
Um,
and, height, width, girth, muscle mass, does that matter?
it does not seem to matter. I have tested some morbidly obese people, and there's a real
Mhm.
variation. One I had to give 3 and 4 capsules. The other one, did it. So It doesn't seem to be body size. It tends to
Okay.
be, you know, sort of under your tongue, right to your brain, that sort of thing. And then children, here's the most startling example lately, working with a, uh, she's been diagnosed mild to severe, you know, autistic. She's on the spectrum. She's a
Okay.
3-year old. And when I met the parents, this child only slept for 4 hours at a time with no rhythm. So she'd sleep from 11 to 3 in the morning, and then she'd be up. And then the next time she would sleep from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. and then be up. Um, and then go to sleep
Jeez.
again at 6 a.m. Right. And so it was all over the map and all over the clock. And I honestly don't know. Those parents should be sainted. Now they now they held themselves together. So we started the GAPS diet, and
Okay.
that made some astounding things. This child would not eat anything that wasn't dipped in ketchup, period. And she only ate what typically autistic children do, and that's chicken nuggets and bread. Um,
Wow.
she ate three foods. I'm not pulling them up right now, but she only ate three foods, and they all had to be dipped in ketchup. The parents were, as you can imagine, beside themselves. Okay,
Oh, I'm sure.
not even
Oh.
sleep deprived, but here's this 3-year-old, and she's adorable. So But the father created another sauce. The kid just liked sauces. He created a sauce with Gap's okay food, you know, onions and
Hmm.
whatever. Put it
Yeah.
together, and within a couple of weeks, she had turned, and she was now eating huge bowls of vegetables, stewed in, you know, meat broth, and big bowls of broth and veggies. Unheard. She had never ever ever done that. Okay, and then, but
Oh.
the sleep was still a huge issue, and she would scream and cry. This child never woke up without screaming. Okay, so I
Yeah.
finally said, counter to what I typically do, I said, you know what? She had so many, and I asked the parents, and there were just a lot of signs of low tryptophan, low serotonin. So I
Okay.
said, let's try her on a little bit of tryptophan. And I needed to double that little bit. But once I got her up to, I think it was about a half a dose of an adult, which typically you do with
Mhm.
children,
Yeah.
she slept for the first time for 8 hours and woke up for the first time ever, not screaming and kicking.
Wow, that's impressive. I hope some of my parents here are listening and reach out to you because I know they would probably kiss the ground you walk on if you could get their child to sleep 8 hours.
Well, this child now sleeps 12 hours.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
incredible.
it is. And she's beginning to learn. She can sit and attend and eat the way she never could. She's still got, you know, ways to go, but this is the power of the aminos. They blow me away. You know, it's
Yeah,
like, well, thank God, you know, somebody figured this out, because this
yeah,
little piece of white powder, and they figured out how to get it in her. God bless, you know. So so that's how strong these things can be, and they really are a gift of life in so many ways, because um, mental health is just a huge prison in many ways, and it just,
yeah.
yeah.
That's incredible. What about for older people, maybe in their 70s or 80s, who have had a diet for their whole entire life? Do you see transformations like this with them as well?
People in their 70s or 80s, especially 80s and 90s, they've actually had better food earlier in life, so they have a better foundation. However, if you look at most of our elderly, now I'll be 70 in a month, and
It's
my peers
incredible.
my peers are going down. Okay, I mean, my
Yeah,
best friend is sitting in a you know, memory care unit.
yeah.
And it's diet. So it's a mixed bag, but in general, our elderly are absolutely going down because of the food. And what are they feeding them in in institutions? Nothing but garbage. So
Yeah.
do these aminos help them? Absolutely, but they've got to be willing and wanting to change their diet. I mean, that's the bottom
Mhm.
line. And mothers with children have got to be wanting. And
Yeah.
both these parents of this autistic child, both of them morbidly obese, okay, and the husband had severe IBS. No longer does he have any IBS. They're both losing
Oh,
weight. They both feel
oh,
terrific. Just, you
yeah,
know, hello, stuff like this. So
yeah.
yeah, you've got to be willing to cross over and say, that's it. I really choose to change. And if you just give yourself a week, that's when it
Mhm.
becomes addictive in all the right ways, because you're like,
Yeah.
wow, I could feel this good. I mean, that's what happened with me.
Yeah.
1 week, and it was like, dang,
Yeah.
it's like, that's so much better. I would so much rather feel this way than the other way. So,
Yes. Completely agree. And I know from history too, when I grew up on white sugar. I grew up
yeah.
on processed food, TV dinners, honey buns. I was sick all the time. I had everything under the sun. And when I first started switching, it was kind of in my mid 20s. And I didn't notice it at first because I literally, if you asked me when I was a kid or a teenager, oh, no way would I eat vegetables. No way. I remember in my graduate school, a friend invited me over for dinner and they had some grilled veggies. I was like, I'm not going to try that. I'll have that pizza over there. And, and so people who know me now and I'm, eat all these plants and stuff, they don't know what I was really like before. And I feel so good now. I have no qualms about saying, you know what, that food's not for me anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel better now than I did when I was 28.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got more energy, more flexibility in my body, more, you name it, just everything. So
Yeah.
it's very true. So I tell people, oh, and there are scales that you can get on that will tell you your body age.
Hmm.
You've got your chronological age, and then you have your body age, right?
Yeah.
So my chronological age is 70, but my body age is 47.
That's awesome.
But
That's
that's what a
wonderful.
ton of vegetables does for you. I mean, that's what you're looking at is, 6 to 9
Yeah.
cups of vegetables a day for 50 years.
Yeah. We have to actually want to feel good
Yes.
to, we can feel good. We just have to want to feel it to make the correct choices. And then, like you said, just a week of feeling better, you don't want to go back. You really, once
No, it
you see that light,
with
oof.
you. No, it does. It messes with you because it's like, yeah, you can't go back. You know how good you can feel.
Absolutely. This is wonderful. So, how can people get a hold of you if they want to work with you? I'm glad to hear you're virtual, so anyone around the world can work
Yes.
with
I
you.
am virtual. If you go to my website, which is fastfoodhealing.com, I teach you how fast you can
Hmm.
heal with food alone. And we all need to
Yeah.
heal from fast food. So there is right on that website, you can say, you can set up a 15-minute appointment. Can Sarah help me? Appointment, and I'd be glad
Hmm.
to talk to you. I love talking to people,
Great.
and we can do a video 15-minute consult, and
Yeah.
I'll let you know if I can help you out.
Yeah, it's really generous of you because sometimes we're not always sure if it's the right fit, if it's the right thing, but having just a 15 minutes of your time will give people that, assurance and give you a little bit of information about them. So the other thing is you mentioned you have a course as well that you
Yeah.
just launched. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Just a little bit more.
Yeah, I did a series of 6, each of them a half hour. So you get 20 minutes of me talking and 10 minutes of other people asking questions. And questions, of course, are always fabulous because they bring up stuff that I forgot to bring up. So you've got 6 half-hour classes with a ton of recipes, ideas. These are my brilliant ideas that I came up with because I've never done anything other than run 500 miles an hour, running through my life, raising children, running a business, yada,
Mhm.
yada, yada. Um, so but my priority was always good food. So you got to come up with ideas. Like I've got an instant salad. I've got my crock pot baking where I often have 3 crock pots going at all times. And these are methodologies that will enable you literally to have a 10 to 15-minute dinner ready. You walk in the house and in 10 to
Mm,
15 minutes, you can serve your family.
that's
So
awesome.
this is the kind of stuff that people need to know because cooking with whole food does not mean that you're tied to the kitchen all day long. It means you have to organize yourself in a different way. But as
Yeah.
always, it is never, ever about time. It is always about priority.
Yep. It really is. And if we put our priority on our health and feeling good, then we actually have more energy to do the other stuff and maybe it gets done more efficiently.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite
Yeah.
sayings is if you ignore your health, it will go away.
That's a good one.
Isn't
I like that one. It's so appropriate.
it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
love
yeah.
it.
So, yeah.
Love it.
So our children are our future, and if we can really pay attention and teach them, the because once they get it, both my kids grew up to eat whole foods because they know the difference. It doesn't
Yeah,
mean that they never eat sugar or white flour. It means they know the difference and they prefer to feel good.
yeah, absolutely.
So
Totally get it. So, any last little tidbits or anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
no, I think we've covered it all. I do have,
Okay.
and I do have a course on behavior and nutrition,
Okay.
on my website. So if you're dealing with a child with behavior issues, I teamed up with Rebecca Thompson Hitt, who is just an amazing family psychologist. And we teamed up together and created a course that you can take. So, and I also have a do it yourself GAPS course on my
Okay.
website. So,
Oh,
lots of
wonderful.
ways to move into the world. And if you join my PhD club, which stands for Prioritize Health Daily, our PhD club is free and you get tons of recipes and good goodies.
Oh,
Tis the season, right? Everybody's going,
yep.
oh, Sarah, I have to have my sugar. It's Christmas or it's Hanukkah or whatever. It's like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
No, use my recipes. They're made with raw honey and good goodies and dried dates and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And make it, and people love my good goodies. When I come, they go, oh, you mean I can eat this and not feel guilty? It's like, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, they're so good. So those are the things that you can find through my website. And yeah, I just love to be an educator. I can't educate enough. And we need to teach each other this and spread the word.
Yeah.
We need to climb out of this. We need to opt
Yeah.
out of what the food corporations want us to do.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's my final word.
That's absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all this. We really appreciate all of your information. I know this will help many viewers
Yeah.
just to change and shift their life. And please, everyone, go to Sarah's website, fastfoodhealing.com. Reach out to her. She's being very generous with her time to get you started on feeling better. So thank you so much, Sarah.
Hey, honey, keep on keeping on. You're doing great. Love what you do. You take care.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for watching and listening today to the Weekend Wellness Hour show. Have a great rest of your weekend. We'll see you next week with our next episode. Take care. Bye, guys.